I'm Bree Orozco. I am a worship leader here at SciLife. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and this is my journey to believing Jesus really is who he says he is. I was raised as a pastor's daughter, and I knew a lot about Jesus, and I had scripture memorized and all of that, but I didn't really fall in love with him until I was a senior in high school. And my parents always challenged me to make my faith my own. So they kind of allowed me to have my own prodigal son journey. I felt like because of my dad's job that it wasn't really a choice for me, that that's what I had to choose. And I definitely did have some pain from the church and just being in the role that I was because of the role my dad was in. But I really struggled to fully surrender my life to him, and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do and find him for my own self and not just because that's what my parents wanted from me. I fell in love at 18. I was engaged at 19 and married at 20 to my husband Isaiah, and shortly after that we decided we wanted to start having kids. So we tried, and for 10 months we had no luck, and then finally we got pregnant and celebrated for a day, and the next day we ended up miscarrying. And it was super devastating, obviously, and I questioned a lot why a good God would allow such a just sad, painful loss. But the very next month we were pregnant again, and it was our very first daughter, Willow Praise. We were super excited to have a second, so we started, and about 6 months in, we got pregnant, and after a couple weeks of celebrating with close friends and family, we ended up losing that baby too. And it was one of the most painful seasons in my life, and it was as if all of the pain and the trauma of our first loss and all the questions I had of who God was resurfaced, and it was like a double whammy, and just questioning God all over again, like just how could he allow this to happen. And I really felt like, as I reflected, that having Willow, having a healthy child, really just put a Band-Aid over all those questions I had of God, and was like, because I got what I wanted, he was good again. But as soon as things weren't the way I wanted, I questioned who he was. So 3 months after we had lost that second pregnancy, we got pregnant again, and we lost that baby also. The anger I was in and the pain that we were feeling was almost unbearable, to the point where I would stand in church with my lips literally sealed because I couldn't even pretend to worship and sing songs like "He'll Never Fail Me Yet," because I felt like he really had failed me. I feel like I really had to grieve the loss of what I thought would be the case for my life, or the timeline that I had in mind. I knew Jesus hadn't left me, and I spoke to him often, but it was as if I was in the wilderness wondering and questioning who Jesus really was. In the days and weeks following our third loss, God really met us in our pain, and we remained faithful to spend time with him and open his words, even though we barely had any words to say to him other than why. God was beginning to heal our hearts. He was just really showing us his heart for us, and he was just remaining faithful to us in other areas of our lives that were just proving to us that he was trustworthy, even though we didn't have what we wanted at that time. One morning, as we were having our quiet times, Isaiah was reading Psalm 139, and it's a passage where David talks about being woven together in your mother's womb. And we weren't pregnant at the time, but God really pressed on Isaiah's heart that we would have another little girl, and her name would be Woven. A few months later, we found out we were pregnant again, and We were equal parts excited and fearful. I was really trying to self-protect my heart, as if maybe that would keep another loss from hurting as badly as the others. So after a couple days of things looking like they were going okay, we decided that we would share it with my family. And the night before, as we were getting things prepared to have Willow wear a big sister shirt and reveal to my family, I started bleeding. And I literally fell to my knees and screamed out to God. Why? I had no other words to utter out of my mouth other than why. And I just begged him to please spare this baby's life. So we went to bed truly traumatized, even though we knew there was a chance. It didn't take away from the shock all over again. So when we went to my parents' house the next morning to share with them, we were in a very somber state, and though we wanted to celebrate, we knew the likelihood of losing this baby was huge for us. So my family gathered around me and laid hands on Isaiah and I and just prayed for a miracle. And looking back, we truly believe that in that moment, God literally closed my womb and did a miracle that day. The weeks went on, and I never stopped holding my breath, but each week I felt God just so near to me, and I just continued to give my anxiety over to him and just had to make a daily choice to trust him. When we found out that our baby was another girl, we immediately were just reminded how trustworthy God's voice is and of what God placed on Isaiah's heart to call her Woven. Throughout my whole pregnancy, God just continued to remind us of his promises, that he'll never leave us or forsake us. He's always going to be good. There's always hope. Even if we never had another child, God would still have been good, and there still would have been hope for us. But he decided to give us the gift of our daughter Woven. Our journey through the wilderness of grief and questioning who God was and why he allows things like this to happen led us to being more confident than ever that he is who he says he is. So we named our daughter Woven Promise as a reminder to us that God keeps his promises. And even if we never got what we wanted, he would have never left us. And that was his promise to us all along.